Hey, what's up everybody? Jay Woo here with a video I promised to make for you all, and it is choosing a suitable computer for gaming. Now I'm not going to be talking about Macs because I don't own one anymore. I had a MacBook Air, but then it kept freezing on me, so I just sold it. So this is just a general video on choosing a computer, and it doesn't go all too technical like CPU, FSB, like front side buses and all that other little tiny details. I know there's many of people out there who have this thing down to a science, so power to you, and feel free to share some of your knowledge in the comment section down below. If you are a gamer, you would want a Windows system because the majority of games are on Windows, and by majority I mean 99.99%. So if you ever went to look for a computer, maybe on the internet, it's so confusing because there's so many companies making them with their own little specifications and all these little differences, so that could just be mind-boggling for someone who doesn't even know where to look first. The top two components you want to focus on are the CPU and the graphics card, so let's get started with those. Now for CPUs, you generally want to stay away from single core processors. I don't know if they even make them anymore, but I just don't see it. But so minimum is dual core these days, and that's already pushing it because many modern day games would run better on quad or higher. So the lowest you should get is probably an Intel i3 or an AMD equivalent. I'm not too familiar with AMD because I never used one, but AMD is generally lower priced than Intel and they still run pretty well. The next one is graphics. Many games these days are more graphics heavy than CPU, like Crysis. So it's more complicated than CPUs because there are much more things to consider, like texel rate, like all these other little tiny details, pixel rate, like just so much. So Nvidia's graphics performance doesn't go up by higher numbers. So maybe a GTX 480 would be better than a 550 Ti. So a great way to see if the graphics is right for you is to search it up online and read the reviews. So if you are looking for a laptop though, you are in luck, because there is a great site called notebookcheck.com that lists every card and compares it to other cards. So just search up the card you want and that site will be there. Now those were the two most important components because everything else you could generally modify or upgrade later. So next would be hard drive space. You don't have to worry about that much because if you want a larger drive, then you can always get one and swap it out. But if you're intending to record commentaries, I would recommend the 500 gigabyte and up hard drive because the files you'll record will take up a lot of space, especially if you're recording with fraps. I think a minute will be like 4 gigs or something. It's just uncompressed footage, so it gives you the best quality, but it really takes a strain on your whole hard drive space. But in the first place, you shouldn't even be saving on the same saving the files on the same hard drive your system is installed at, because all that writing will slow down your system and performance will just decrease like just a lot. So I recommend the 300 gigabyte and up disk for your main hard drive. But if you got money for a terabyte, they're pretty cheap these days. I remember back then they were way more expensive, but you could get one for under 100 for like 1.5 terabytes from Western Digital or something like that. So if you got the money, definitely go get one. It's very useful. And if in case you don't know what a terabyte is, it's approximately 1,000 gigabytes. Another thing to watch for is hard drive speed, usually measured in RPM. So you want to get one that spins at 7,200 RPM because the reading speed will be faster. Also, if you have a blazing fast Intel i7 and a slow hard drive, it will just limit how efficient your system runs at, because your hard drive would just basically cap the speed the information is being sent. So that's where an SSD comes in. The speeds are insane on those things, but they're quite expensive and the capacity of the drives are still quite small. For my setup, I have a 500 gigabyte main disk for my whole operating system and programs, and a terabyte external and internal for all my videos and recordings. Terabytes are really necessary for what I do because I pump out gigs of simulation files every day for my projects. So the next thing is RAM. It is more straightforward than the other components because that one is basically like the bigger the better. So generally speaking, you want to get RAM that's at least 4 gigs and more if you want to record commentaries. And there's this thing like DDR2 and 3, but newer computers these days use DDR3, which is few times faster than the older versions of RAMs. Also for the operating system, if you want to have more than 4 gigs of RAM in your system, you have to get a 64-bit operating system because 32-bit will not recognize anything over 4. I really think that's standard now for many systems if you want to buy them. I remember when it was not so popular, but now it's like really necessary. Many Adobe products require 64-bit systems to run their programs. I personally have 8 gigs on my system, and that's still not enough for After Effects, Adobe After Effects. It's a crazy program and it eats up all my RAM, so maybe my next system build might have 32 gigs of RAM to run that program. I do a lot of CG work, so I need a pretty good system to support all the things I do. Anyways, that's basically a few tips to choose a computer that would suit your needs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.